This is The Intersection, meeting at the crossroads where the two forbidden subjects of politics and religion intersect. This is the Sophie Scholl Roundtable, and with me again is Kurt Olson. A lot of interesting discussions we've been having, and this one will probably be the most interesting of them all. Why do I say that? Because Kurt, on his Facebook page, put up this post. Men can have babies gives off a strong flat earth vibe.
Yes. The men can have babies. The genesis was just recently. We had a Senate hearing, and Josh Hawley is talking to a Cal Berkeley law professor. He's asking certain questions, and all of a sudden she gets kind of condescending. She kind of got on her high horse. You could just tell by the attitude that she kind of perked up. And I don't even know the lady's name, and frankly, it's irrelevant. And the questions you're asking are transphobic. And it came around to her asking him, do you believe men can have babies?
Yeah.
And he said, no, I don't. And it went on a little bit further. And
yeah, then she said, you're in denial of the transsexual.
Right. Yes. And so I forget who... I'm on Twitter. I find these pithy statements that I end up sharing.
They're great.
And these are people who are smarter than me, got more analytical skills, and that's where that came from. And a flat earther vibe. Okay, so flat Earth. I mean, this flat Earth idea is now happening at a time when we just saw the initial images of the James Webb Space Telescope, where we're seeing the outer edges of the universe. Okay, so flat Earth. So who came around to helping us totally reject the idea that the Earth was flat and that the planets revolved around the sun? Galileo? Galileo? Copernicus? One of them or both of them? Obviously the flat Earth idea has been rejected for hundreds of years. And the point this pithy statement gets to is, boy, the question we need to start asking ourselves, and this is kind of like a big so what question. How do people who believe men can't have babies coexist in a country where people who do? How do you That's right. How do you navigate that divide?
Yep.
And come to a point where there's an ability to reason by those two groups of people? It's a question.
Right.
Because if this continues to persist, this thinking, also in recent weeks, we've also had Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire put out his documentary. I have not seen it. I want to. Let me just say this. When that documentary came out, there were some believers who saw it and said, every pastor in America should show this documentary because it gets to questions of truth.
Exactly. Truth.
Because so Matt Walsh, What is a Woman? That's the name of the documentary that the Daily Wire has out. And we're now having these occasional conversations on Capitol Hill, which is what the genesis of this was. Where does this end?
Right.
How do these two sides get together?
Yeah. I think you're right. We cannot coexist.
This smells of Hatfield and McCoy's material.
Yes. I would agree.
you have people that accept the binary differences between males and females, and females are the bearers of children. And there's a group of people. In fact, we even have documents from government entities that now list dozens or whatever number of options that you want for your gender. Scary quotes intended.
Yeah. And people might say, oh, this is just a philosophical discussion, but it plays out in politics. For example,
Go ahead.
Pennsylvania Governor Wolf vetoed legislation that would have prevented boys who feel like they're females from competing in girls' sports.
That's right. We have all across America now state legislatures and governors who are wrestling with the issue of whether or not they allow biological males, kind of like the Leah Thomas of college athletics, or whatever his name is, competing against girls. And they're dealing with this all over the world. I've seen some stuff out of Britain, where an international swimming entity has said, no, biological males cannot compete with biological females. And all I would ask is this. You can tell they have the structure of a male. They look like a male. They have the build of a male. They think they can change their plumbing, and that makes them something else? I'm sorry. I flatly disagree.
Yeah, right. And to me, Wolf is discriminating against women in the name of saying we can't discriminate against the transsexual.
You now have this pressure that's being exerted on the left that you have to buy in, hook, line, and sinker to this category of identity politics.
Yeah.
And again, you will have certain state legislatures that will buy in, and you have others that are saying, "Oh no, you don't."
Right.
And we've had the Florida legislature and even Governor DeSantis down there said, "We don't need an NCAA competition held in our state, anyways." And he's basically saying, "Don't let the door hit you on the way out." I mean, but they're making people make decisions and make choices that obviously will have some economic consequences. But the question is, does it matter? And it's going to be interesting where a lot of this stuff lands and ends. How many businesses are going to rise up and say, no.
Yes.
We are not raising flags. We don't want politics in the name of our company.
That's going to be a pressure.
Yes. I'm expecting that pressure to start surfacing. Is it going to start in the family-owned businesses that have been around for 60, 70, 80 years? My guess, in a lot of places, that's already the case. But Fortune 500 companies. ExxonMobil, they moved their headquarters to Houston, and they told their employees, no flags, no gay pride, no Black Lives Matter. Sorry, we're not doing it.
Good for them. Because I think this aspect of politics in the corporate world is becoming more and more prevalent as a way to advance tyranny in the form of fascism.
Yeah.
In that you can still have your own company or corporation, but the government controls through ESG environmental, social governance.
Yes. And this also comes on the heels when we had the aptly named Ministry of Truth that they wanted in the Biden administration. How much is government aligning with certain social media companies solely for the purpose of trying to direct what Americans think?
Yeah.
We know the mainstream media believes that they should be controlling what we think. The question is now, apparently the government's in on it too.
Yep.
And to what extent?
Right.
And the question becomes, when does the American public, and especially Christians, who should be discerning, who should be have some measure of wisdom and understanding of culture, and not to mention understanding of God's word, and be able to start making some hard decisions. Now let's be honest. I don't think any person, even a Christian, can get rid of all of their purchases from Walmart, Amazon. Go down the list. Insurance companies that we use to insure our vehicles, homes, in some cases even life. I'm not sure it's but there's a phrase, you go woke, you go broke. And there is some evidence to suggest that companies that push that agenda too much are beginning to see stock prices and other things experience downfall. So,
As in Disney,
Netflix basically flipped on a bunch of things and said, "Listen, if you can't handle it, too bad." They got rid of Ibram Kendi's show on anti-racism, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And they said, if you don't think you can work for us, there's the door.
Yep. 2 shows ago, or was it 3? Let out with Exodus 18:21, spotlighting the primacy of character for individuals that are in political positions. And those 4 marks were being trustworthy, hate of dishonest gain, fear of God, and capability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just 4 simple things.
And
4 simple things.
we talked today about a discussion regarding this whole gender identity politics, which makes us go back to the book of Genesis, understanding how God set things up. And like Kurt said, this calls for wisdom, understanding, and discernment. We need it in every aspect of our lives, including the sticky stuff of politics. All right. Kurt, thanks you so much for joining me here today once again on the Sophie Scholl Roundtable.